I am Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
Once again, here we are.
Yeah.
It's the hottest day of August so far, I think, Cuz was explaining to me.
Gonna be by 3 o'clock, 101.
Yeah, it's pretty hot out there.
How does wildlife make it, Toxie, when it's so...
You know, Cuz has one of my favorite expressions for these depressing times. He said, it is so dry, it's so depressing, things are dying. He said, fact of the matter, I went fishing the other day and all my brim had ticks on them.
Hey, I just mentioned, walked through the woods this morning, 11 ticks. So
Did you spray?
I did spray.
Well, doggone it.
I know.
Reckon how many you would have had you not sprayed.
I didn't. Apparently, I didn't spray enough. I just kind of misted,
Instead
Can't
of-
be frugal with it.
Hey, Bobby,
No.
instead of a chick magnet, he's a tick magnet.
No, I'm a
He
tick
is a
man.
tick man,
No doubt
yeah.
about it. Had to go. Yeah.
I thought I heard one a minute ago.
Did you? Ticking.
Yeah.
If they get me now, they're
whatever.
gonna be in the cab of that tractor.
Yeah.
I'm past the experimenting and scouting stage.
I'm with you on that.
All right, guys. So, look, one quick thing. Today is the 28th.
Oh,
So the bear bow is
Gamekeeper
available.
bear bow
10
is
o'clock
available.
today, you can order the bear bow.
Yeah.
I hope
You
you
better
Gamekeeper-
hurry. They
find out.
might be out
Yeah,
already. I better hurry and get them.
The Gamekeeper Junior now too. Let's not forget
Yeah.
about that one. That's an
Can you
awesome
believe
rig.
that thing, Cuz? The junior bow?
No,
I mean, I can't imagine.
You got
What
crazy
I would
behind
have
one
given
yet?
for that adaptation range, was it 17 to 28, something like that?
Yes.
It's 5
Yeah.
to 50 and
Yes.
17 to 28.
It's amazing. The
It is
range
incredible.
amazing. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a great kids or ladies bow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
so that's available, guys. So in the spirit of that launching today, we've got I think this is going to be very interesting. We've got a guy. Let me go ahead and introduce him. His name is Christian Williams.
You nailed it.
There you go, Christian. And this guy is a physical therapist that makes his living helping archers. Now,
bow hunters.
I wondered about could you Christian, can you help us understand how you do this for a living?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of an adjustment there because I have to be careful what I call myself, but I am essentially what's called a movement and corrective exercise specialist. Now, similar to what you had said, Bobby, physical therapist, but I primarily work with archers and bow hunters alike, either before they get to the point of a fairly significant injury and have to go into surgery, or if an archer bow hunter has had an injury, has to get surgery, and then they're coming out of that surgery and they're doing okay, they're getting back to daily life. I work with the archer to then build back into shooting because there tends to be a pretty big gap there after an injury. And then, like I said, before an injury really becomes a big problem where shooting a bow is just out of the question. So with my business, Archery Strong, I apply a couple of different tools to either get the archer pain-free, to help that archer bow hunter prevent injuries, or just help that bow hunter be more capable, feel more confident, and more able with their draw weight, shooting repetitions in practice, and ultimately hunting. And to do that, I apply some different types of rehab. I apply some different types of strength training protocols to build up these structures, the muscles, the joints, the tendons, and ligaments that allow us to shoot. And also, I use some biomechanics. So that's like getting into the nitty-gritty of our movement when we're shooting a bow, because some of us very much so, we'll pick up a bow and just draw and shoot without thinking much about it. And that's okay most of the time. But if we run into an injury, or if we're having a problem that's keeping us out of the woods, keeping us from shooting our bow and enjoying the experiences that archery and bow hunting allows us to have, then we'll really dive into what can we do to help that archer move in a way when they're shooting that is comfortable, that's confident, that is smooth, and that is strong, with the ultimate goal being that I want everybody who wants to shoot a bow, I want everybody that wants to bow hunt to be able to do so without being limited, restricted, or running into pain and problems. Because the unfortunate reality is there's a lot of different things in our own personal daily lives, or just in the sphere of hunting and conservation in different areas that kind of threaten our ability in different ways to enjoy bow hunting and to enjoy archery. And one thing that is in most of our control is our physical condition to be able to shoot that bow and to be able to bow hunt with a vertical bow. So my mission is to be able to keep guys and girls alike doing that and enjoying that without restrictions or limitations.
Wow.
That's awesome to
There
hear.
you have it. The man knows
You
what he's
know,
doing.
and it makes so much sense because I would say, I mean, you got to have great equipment, and there's a bunch of great equipment these days. But of all these things for accuracy, could mean nothing if you're not in shape, if you're not balanced, if you're not,
Tuned.
you know, it could
Sure.
make a
Yeah,
huge
good point.
difference in success or failure when you take that shot.
So,
100%.
Christian, I never thought about this, but just listening to you. So, if I'm going to go out this afternoon and shoot my bow, I need to. Sounds like I need to stretch maybe or do some kind of warm up.
Hey, Bobby, if you were going to pitch the game this afternoon, would you just walk out to the mound and start throwing?
No, probably wouldn't.
Takes a pitcher a long
Yeah.
time to get ready today's world.
If we just go out, pick up our bow and shoot, it's like going from 0 to 100, meaning, hey, maybe we were sitting at the counter talking to our family, maybe we're finishing up some emails. We're going from a place of really no movement, no loading, no physical challenge to shooting our full draw weight. Now, most of the time, we'll probably be okay. Most of the time, you're probably not going to run into issues. But exactly like the point that was made that, hey, a pitcher's going to warm up in the bullpen before they go out to the mound. A golfer's going to take some practice swings before they hit hole number 1 of the course. At a bare minimum, it is only going to help you or help us to even just do a couple of draws with an elastic band. If you've got a band laying around, do a dozen draws, focus in on your shot process, thinking about what that's going to be like to draw back. And that serves as essentially a stepping stone to get you ready to go into your full draw weight. Now, there's a variety of different ways that you can warm up, and I'll have different archers and bow hunters warm up. But if you're looking for something quick to kind of check that box to say, hey, I did something to give myself a little bit of prep work, or just like starting my truck and letting it run for a few seconds before pulling out, doing a couple of band draws with a moderate tension band can go a long way. So that's a little piece of the puzzle, so to speak, at what we can do to put ourselves in the best position physically to keep enjoying shooting a bow.
Christian, I went down the archery rabbit hole pretty deep many years ago, and I read this somewhere. I don't know where it was, so don't fact check me. But this guy he's saying the muscles you use to shoot a bow are rarely used, and he said one of the only other times you use those muscles is doing a backstroke, something like that. Are the muscles that we use to do that, are they pretty isolated? We don't use them daily, do we?
That's a great question. And my first answer would be not anymore. And what I mean by that is, as we all sit here in 2024, nearing 2025, most of the daily physical labor that was commonplace back in even 1950, 1900, and certainly before that, no longer exists. Where, many people, if you go back even just 100 years ago, they were doing a lot more physical tasks, physical labor, whether that was with their profession, whether that was on their homestead with some livestock they had, where they were using muscles more often, they were using muscles more intensely, they were using muscles in more unique ways. And although we do still on a much lower level use those muscles, it's just that it's on a significantly lower level. So to the point that you had just made, many of the muscles that we rely on are in the upper back and throughout the shoulder girdle, which is you can just think about that kind of as your shoulder joints, the top of your chest, top of your back. And to your point, those muscles are muscles we don't use often. We don't use them in a manner that actually strengthens them, revitalizes them, makes them tolerant to challenging tasks like shooting a bow. So it's not necessarily that we don't use those muscles at all, but it's more that we don't use them enough, and it's that we don't use them in ways that translate into shooting a bow, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And And the point the guy was trying to make is like, you're not trying to bulk yourself up where you can pull an 80-pound bow. You're trying to get strong enough to hold it steady, whether you're shooting, 60 or 55 or something. That's a big deal. I can still pull 60 or 65 pounds, but I want to be able to hold it like a rock. And until you get in that repetition, that probably ain't going to happen. That's just my thoughts.
It
anyway.
is not. You're right.
Yeah. So is there, like, could you tell us, should we be doing push-ups or chin-ups or I'd hope that you're not going to say backstrokes because Lanny, you're the only one I know who's got
I'm the
a
only
swimming
backstroker
pool.
here. That's right.
Yeah, great question. So my first and perhaps most important recommendation for any archer or bow hunter who's out there and has a desire to preserve the integrity of their upper body that's going to allow them to shoot for a lifetime, which is the goal. First recommendation is to move and use your body in daily life as frequently as you can with as many different varied tasks as you can. Daily movement and activity is really king, and it's the most natural way that our bodies throughout history have been preserved and strengthened and utilized. So some quick examples, I'll go off the top of my head just based on my day today. One example would be I carried a 5-gallon bucket of water 100 yards or so to my chicken coop for my meat birds. That was a quick little dose of using some of the musculature that when I use it, it is going to be strengthened, it is going to be rejuvenated, it is going to be ready for tasks as I continue to do that. Another example was I got some feed from the store, throwing a bag up over my shoulder, carrying that to the shed, dumping it in a container. I've got a 6-month-old daughter, carrying her around on a phone call, moving her from one place to another. Just these different little tasks that you can do regularly, and they all have benefit. And the most important part is that they frequently occur. And there's more opportunities to do that than we think if we don't take essentially the easy way out for some different tasks that are in front of us, whether it's at our house, whether it's at our job, whatever it might be. So that's first. Then to what you had pointed there, Bobby, should I be doing push-ups? Should I be doing chin-ups? My recommendation, kind of going off of that, if you were to pick just a couple of things that you were going to do semi-regularly, the first one would be a plank. And for those that might not be familiar with a plank, it is simply holding a push-up position at the top. So you go down to the ground, you're holding a push-up position. If you can hold that push-up position at the top with your arms straight, your body in a nice straight line for 30, 60 seconds, a little bit longer if you're able to, couple times a week, maybe almost every day, that's a huge value, low barrier to entry. Everybody can drop down and do that at some point, whether it's a morning routine, something in the evening, whatever it might be. That would be number one. Number two would be is if you have either a couple spare weights laying around, if you have a couple of bands laying around, one of the most bang for your buck movements that you can regularly and consistently do as a habit that is going to transfer in as a benefit to archery is going to be some sort of row or some sort of pull towards yourself. So if it's a band, you tie a band off in front of you to a post or something, and you're pulling that band towards you, squeezing your back together, getting some tension into the back muscles and repeating that movement. You can also do similar things with a dumbbell. That's a very simple, tried and true, very beneficial and well-balanced movement that is easy to do and, again, has a lot of value to the archer. So those would be two really big ones. And a third that I would offer, also fairly convenient and accessible, would be something that's called, and this is a little bit broad in general, but something that's called a weighted carry. And exactly as it implies, it's the idea of, in some fashion, holding on to a weight and carrying it, where your body's spending time under tension, all of your muscles are engaged to support that weight. So it can be something as simple as what we call a farmer's carry, where you've got two weights or two 5-gallon buckets down by your side, and you go for a 200-yard walk in the morning. That's a simple one. Another simple one is a bear hug carry, where you are bear hugging any sort of heavy odd object, whether that's a 5-gallon bucket filled with something, It could be a bag of feed, it could be a case of water. There's a variety of options there. But it's the idea that if we apply load or if we apply stress to our bodies in the form of weight and then carry it from point A to point B, your body's working, your muscles are challenged, your muscles are strengthening to be able to perform that task. And that time under tension is very valuable because you think about yourself in archery or you think about yourself bow hunting. There's times where we're holding in full draw. There are times where we are having to hold extra, whether it's on an animal or maybe you're practicing that way as a way to prepare for the season. So archery has a very clear component of spending time under that tension. Even if your bow has 80-90% let off, you're still supporting some weight. You're still holding that bow. You want to be steady, as we talked about earlier. So the more time you can get under tension, being strong, being steady, capable, is going to make you more capable behind the bow. So those would be a quick, I guess, group of 3 that are a really good go-to, and they're pretty accessible and manageable for most people, where your example was along the right lines, Bobby. But of course, you know, there are people who chin-ups are out of the question, push-ups might bother a shoulder. So these are pretty tried and true examples that we can apply.
See these people? When the clock strikes 5, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. They have to do these things. They have to do those things. Enter the all-new LS Tractor MT2 and MT2E, a relentless force of innovation. Redesigned with a new hood and cab built for comfort and visibility, with enhanced lifting capacity to get the job done. Making these people the ones everyone else calls those people. Visit your local LS Tractor dealer today.
Moultrie has pioneered the game management category. Today, Moultrie is one of the best-selling brands of feeders and seeders in the world, and they continue to innovate with new technology that gamekeepers will rely on. Moultrie products are always field-tested and designed for hunters by hunters, combining forward-thinking innovation with time-tested practicality. Moultrie, first in feeders since 1979. All right, so guys, Moultrie is offering our listeners a 15% site-wide discount at MoultrieFeeders.com. Use code Mossy Oak with a capital M, Mossy Oak, at MoultrieFeeders.com and get that 15% discount.
The farmer's carry.
Yeah.
I've seen you doing this, Bobby.
Well, I've seen you bear hug bags of corn, take them to your
that's
Moultrie
exactly right.
feeders,
So we're getting in some, but you're not going 200 yards.
No,
Hey, Christian, first off, loving that flag over your left shoulder back there. It looks
Yes,
good.
sir.
It looks good against that blue sky. I'll take this to another level. One of my best friends in the world is a chiropractor. His degree is in nutrition. And you mentioned in the first answer, you said natural 2 or 3 times. And he stays on me all the time to do some kind of weights. He said, you don't need, he said, I know you're not going to do cardio and all that, but he's talking about the importance of that, especially as you get older, to keep keep your balance. Because once them old people fall down, it can be worse and worse.
Right.
You think that's you think he's dead on that weight training helps just as you're growing older, don't you think?
Absolutely, 100%. He is perfectly spot on with that, where we know with age, there's a variety of things that happen to all of us, whether it's currently happening or whether it's going to happen in the future. None of us can escape the fact that our bone density is going to decrease. So bones become less rigid, less strong. Muscle mass is going to decrease. That also correlates or corresponds with a decrease in muscle strength. And not to paint a grim picture, but the fact of the matter is if we go way down the road after we're done shooting a bow, or maybe not, but if we go down the road and think, when do people become less able to live on their own? It's not because they can't run anymore. It's not because they can't jump rope anymore. It's because muscular tasks such as sitting down, standing up, maybe being able to get upstairs, maybe being able to pick themselves up if they do perhaps fall, these muscular tasks become weak points and they become things we can't do anymore. So where that comes back to your question or your comment, which is great, is that to reverse those things or at least delay them, at least minimize the effect of strength loss, muscle loss, bone density decreasing. To minimize those things, the best thing that we can possibly do is, as you said, weight training, but I'm going to put a little bit of a bigger umbrella on top of it. And it's what we would call resistance training. And weight training fits under that. And it's essentially just the idea that we want to do some sort of work against resistance. That could be weights, that could be our own body weight, that could be bands. But the idea is, as I mentioned earlier, that if and when we place stress or load or challenge on our muscles and on our muscles and our frame are forced to adapt to it. They say, I'm giving them a little bit of human characteristics here, but your muscles, your frame say, hey, we're challenged by these weights. We're challenged by this physical task that we have to do. We have no choice but to grow, to get stronger, to become re-equipped with the ability to do this task. I like to sum up this idea with a simple but really valuable idea, and it is that if you don't use it, you lose it. Meaning that as soon as you cross something off your list and say, you know what, I'm going to stop taking that daily walk with my wife, or you say, you know what, I'm going to stop picking up these bags of feed and loading them in. I'm going to have my grandson or my son do it when he comes over. As soon as we cross things off our list, then we eventually lose our ability to do that. So that fits under that idea of, hey, let's keep ourselves strong. Let's keep ourselves capable. And the way we do that as we age, and just in general too, is by engaging in challenging physical tasks, which lifting weights is a perfect and one of the best examples of.
Resistance. Lanny, we do a lot of resistance against toxic.
Les resistance.
Well, so look,
That's more of an uprising and a rebellion.
We've got listeners at all ages, I would think. So can you kind of walk us through, like young guys, cuz you remember when you were young, 70 or 80 pounds.
You know what? We didn't have a thought about it, but now I'm like, cuz, I mean, this is really hits home with me as we getting into those sunset years and love it so much. I can see why a lot of this would do further health benefits. I love the idea of the buckets because you see what people, I guess it was Dr. Radio or somewhere, but I heard a stat where I think 40% of people over 80 have a serious fracture.
Yeah.
Because they can't keep their balance anymore.
Sure.
Or if they stumble a little, they can't catch. So I'm just thinking, how important would that weight / balance combined, it's not just weights, but weight and balance training would be so beneficial.
You're talking about carrying a bucket.
Yeah, like, want something in both hands. That made me think you really got to balance that with your body would be so helpful as we get older. And the thing, too, is that not just do it, a week or two to get ready for bow season, but make it a part of life all the time.
All the time.
Have to give it to Bobby. Yeah. Bobby works out a lot and takes good care of himself.
Oh, Slim.
I'm kind of on again, off again,
Well, climbing up tree stands and stuff. There's so many aspects.
With gamekeeping in general, it's a physical thing. Working on discs,
tractors,
absolutely. In and out.
Yeah, that's right.
It pays to be in shape. It pays to take care of your body. When you do the things we do, there's no question about it.
Christian, do you bow hunt?
Oh, yes, sir. It's one of my biggest passions in life.
I knew that answer.
I knew that answer, too. I just wanted to ask you that.
I respect that.
I'm trying to keep this thing about muscle and balance. I read a thing the other day, and I forgot what the age. You probably know these stats, but it was over the age of 60 or 65, something like that. If you fall and break a bone, a femur or a hip or whatever it is, the odds of you not coming back from that were like 30-something%. And it's all about, according to my buddy, it's all a balance issue. So I can remember when I got on a program with him and I lost a whole bunch of weight in 7 months. I lost like almost 70 pounds. I couldn't pull my 60-pound bow back, and I was like, something's wrong with me. And he told me to get on that, start doing some resistance training, and now I'm still shoot 60 pounds. It's amazing how some of the best archers out there now are really into all that physical stuff. And some people get the wrong impression. I think it goes back to, no, I don't have to pull back 90 pounds. I want to be able to pull back what I got and hold it until that deer steps out into the right spot. I think that's where the big advantage is, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the one way that I think is helpful to think about it, because you're absolutely right with the idea that, we're not trying to become behemoths. We're not trying to build a ton of muscle mass or look a certain way. That's not what it's about, but it's about being capable. And an example I use sometimes that tends to hit home is the idea that if you've got your tractor out and you're going to brush hog, you're going to plant food plots, you're going to do something, do you fill the gas tank up halfway? And I'll answer that question is probably not. You're probably going to top it off, right? You want plenty of gas to get the job done without any concerns that you're going to run out of gas. Strength is the same way, in the sense that I don't want to have just barely enough that I can just barely manage that 60-pound bow. I want to have plenty of strength to manage that bow comfortably, to be able to draw that bow smooth. Maybe I've got a big whitetail doe staring me dead in the face as I'm executing a really slow draw on stand, and I want to draw extra slow, and I don't want to have to rip that bow back. The idea being that the more strength and just physical ability that we have in general leaves a surplus in the tank. So that's a big component of it too, is there's almost never a time where you're going to say, darn, I wish I wasn't this strong. But there are going to be times where you say, darn, I wish I was a little bit stronger so that I could do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you one time, I want to ask you this, if you've ever heard of this happening. But so when from like 15, 16 years old, I really fell in love with shooting a bow. And I shot a bow a lot all my life. And sometime when I was in college, I got to go on an elk hunt. And I was so excited. I shot and shot and shot to get ready for that. In the first 30 minutes of the first day, this guy bugled up a 6x6 that came walking up. I could see it walking up. And when the bull got there at 15 yards and turned broadside, he said, shoot him. I could not draw my bow back to save my life.
That was mental.
It was, I remember trying to pull.
That's called the elk gods.
I just froze up. I could not pull it back. Does that ever happen to anybody else?
The exact opposite happened to me. I was out there filming with the Primos guys.
I remember this.
Yeah, lugging all that heavy
Oh, yeah.
lugging them giant cameras. I was in pretty good shape
Yeah.
back then. And I finally got to hunt one day. When I got my shot, I saw that thing coming up the switchback and it disappeared. And then it just leaped up. I was shooting 80 pounds with a calf hair tab at the time. I jerked it back so fast, I thought I was going to just wreck the bow and let the air go. Never saw where it went. My adrenaline happened on the back end. Yours happened on the front end.
Right.
Oh, my goodness.
Some of that, I think, is being in the wrong position, too. 'Cause
Yeah,
if
you're right.
Man, it doubles how hard it is to draw back if you're not pulling in the right dimension to your body. Hey, I've got a question, too, that we hadn't addressed, and it's really not about balance and strength and all, but injuries, because that's kind of a whole different thing. My big Achilles heel, although that's on your heel, has been like tennis elbow tendonitis.
Sure.
And I'd get it to be so painful I couldn't draw the bow. And
Right.
so you just, and that's hard to treat right away. So talk about that a little bit. And I know the rubber band stretch probably helps that some, but I hadn't had it in a while, but I don't, I lay off shooting. I used to shoot every day all summer long and through the year, and I don't now. But talk
Sure.
about like the common injuries we can avoid and maybe how.
Sure. So I'll start with that elbow example because that's a common one. It's a good one in the sense that the elbow injuries and problems can be very stubborn, very tricky, but they are fairly simple in the sense that most elbow issues in archery that are either preventing you from shooting or making it uncomfortable to shoot are overuse injuries. Now, to get more specific with the idea of overuse, you had given a perfect example there that if we shoot too often, that can start to irritate the tendons of the elbow that attach around the elbow. If we shoot too many arrows, that can also irritate the tendons around the elbow. If we shoot too heavy of a draw weight, it's the idea that if we place more stress and repetition and load on those elbow tendons, or if we place too much stress and load on those elbow tendons, then they will respond with irritation. A simple way to think about it is that we all have a certain size glass, so to speak, in archery. And if we overflow that glass, problems are going to occur. And what I mean by that is the size of your glass is how much you can shoot before problems show up, how heavy a draw weight you can shoot before problems show up, how often you can shoot before problems show up. So every arrow you shoot, every pound of draw weight you shoot, every day that you shoot fills up a glass. And all of us can tolerate more filling of that glass versus less. One archer might have a 16-ounce mason jar, while another archer has a 5-gallon bucket. The guy with a 5-gallon bucket is more resilient, has more tolerance and capacity of all these different working parts in our elbows and shoulders to be able to shoot more often, more arrows, more draw weight, versus somebody else may have to be more mindful of, hey, you know what, I'm starting to feel some soreness come on. I better pull back a little bit on the arrow volume. Maybe I'll shoot fewer arrows. Maybe I'll take more rest days in between shooting. Maybe I'll drop my draw weight down a couple of pounds. It's the idea of managing how much you're putting into that glass in relation to how much your body can handle. Now, spinning off of that to another area that is common for archers to run into: problems, injuries, pain, discomfort, soreness, tightness, all those negative feelings we don't want to feel when we're drawing our bow back, whether it's for practice or in the woods, in a blind or tree stand, would be the shoulders. So the shoulders, around the shoulders, that whole region up there really ends up taking the brunt of the repetition, the brunt of the load. And we can run into a similar example that I just laid out with the elbow, in that the shoulders can only tolerate so much, in that each of us are unique in the sense that we can each handle a different amount of stress and load from that bow than others. Some guys are down at 50 pounds shooting a dozen arrows, maybe just a couple times a week, where there's other guys who are shooting 75 pounds, 50 arrows almost every day, and then everything in between. So this concept also applies to the shoulders and the shoulder girdle and all of the structures kind of in that center of your upper body that take the brunt of the repetition, take the brunt of the draw weight. They're often what I call the weak links of the archer that are going to run into problems or pain or injury if we overflow that glass. Now, that's all under an umbrella that we call load management, where we have to be mindful of what's our body telling us. Can I shoot more? Can I push a little bit more? Maybe I need to dial back the shooting that I'm doing. The next piece of this, when the question was the common injuries that we see, I'm getting a little bit more into why the injuries show up, because I think it's a lot more valuable and useful. And that next piece is form and technique. Now, that's a long road that we could go down, but the big thing you need to know there is that we all want to shoot in a way that feels comfortable, that feels smooth, and that we feel capable with. Sometimes we're cruising just fine, and the way we're shooting's feeling good. But if we run into a problem, we may have to make changes to how we move, how we hold at full draw, and those form adjustments can go a very long way with providing more comfort, either preventing an injury or even resolving an injury. That's bucket number 2, and I'm going to quickly go through 5. Number 3 kind of goes back to some of what we've been talking about so far, but to be able to shoot a bow, the reason why you don't see babies shooting a bow, the reason why you don't see a lot of 90-year-olds shooting a bow is because we have to have adequate function of these upper body parts. And we have to have good integrity of these structures in our upper body that allow us to shoot. Meaning that if our shoulders are really, really tight and they're restricted and it's hard to move into the position of shooting a bow, that can cause problems. If the muscles and tendons are not strong enough to handle the load and the stress of shooting a bow, that can end up causing problems. So the overall idea there is, just like a bow needs freely moving cams, we need the cams to be in timing, we need the strings and cables to be in good condition, we need the riser to be solid with no cracks in it. All those functional and structural integrity pieces that you want to see in a well-functioning bow need to also be present in the archer as well. So that's number 3. Number 4 is equipment. And the big 3 under equipment are you shooting if you're shooting a compound bow, are you shooting a compound bow that has a draw cycle and cams that are fairly smooth and comfortable for you. There are some bows out there that are extremely aggressive to pull, and that is just more stress added to the shoulder. So I encourage archers to shoot a draw cycle or shoot a bow with a draw cycle and cams that feel good for you. The next one is draw length. That plays a big role in having the proper draw length so that you fit into that bow. You're not overreaching and stretching. You're also not compacted. Both of those things can cause some injuries. So that's a big one. And then the last one is draw weight, which we've already touched on enough. And then number 5 is kind of a little bit of an outside factor that can cause some problems in archery, and that's lifestyle factors. Now, this is a big umbrella. This is a big bucket of different things. But sometimes archers will do things or have things happen outside of archery that causes an injury, causes pain. And then when they go to shoot their bow, they also feel that pain. Archery didn't cause that pain. It was that other factor outside. So that can be everything from manual labor to how you're sleeping at night to different maybe repetitive tasks that you're doing and a different hobby that cause a problem. I had a guy recently was doing a ton of woodworking, and he was doing a ton of manual sanding, and that caused an overuse irritation in his shoulder that he felt then in archery. So there's that other bucket of lifestyle factors that I call number 5. But the reason why I highlight those 5 categories, load management, form during shooting, overall shoulder function, equipment, and then lifestyle factors, is because those are the main groups of causes that can lead to an injury or lead to a problem. Now, the injuries that can occur are vast and wide, and there's a bunch of different ones that I don't think are necessarily beneficial to get into the nitty gritty of. But it's this idea that if we can be mindful and understand these different 5 categories, you're going to either help yourself prevent injuries or you're going to help yourself bounce back from one.
The Furminator is the industry's most versatile piece of food plot equipment, allowing plotters to do every step of the process, working the soil, adding seed and soil supplements, and compacting, from start to finish with a single implement. It's hassle-free by design. Set it for the seed size and simply drive the tractor, and the Furminator does the rest. Check it out at thefurminator.com.
Hey guys, Dudley from Gamekeepers here. I want to tell you about the all-new Gunner Dog Bowl. It's designed for home and built for travel. It's customizable, leak-resistant, light on weight, solid on durability, and rust-proof. Like other Gunner products, they're made in Nashville and designed for everywhere.
Nosler's known for their bullets, and now they're making suppressors. Nosler suppressors are made for hunting. Adding a Nosler suppressor to your rifle will make you a quieter, more accurate, and more effective hunter. Protect your hearing and disturb less game with a Nosler suppressor. The time to hunt quiet is now. Learn more at nosler.com.
Christian, do you think this is just a kind of no statistics on this, but do you think you see more injuries from shooting too much weight or from shooting too often? That's just on my mind. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I see more issues from shooting too much weight.
Yes. Right.
I would say the secondary to that would be shooting too many arrows at once. It's more rare that somebody shoots too often, because normally people's schedule, their jobs, their families, their life prevents them from shooting too often, such as every day. But a lot of times when people get the option or the opportunity to go out and shoot, they've got some free time, they'll shoot 100 or 150 arrows after not shooting for a week. And boy, your body's not really ready for that if you're doing that just once a week. But going back to that number 1 that you alluded to there, Bobby, shooting too much weight, where there's a variety of reasons that happens. Either somebody will get in their head that they have to shoot a certain draw weight to be effective on a specific game animal. Somebody will have confidence in a certain draw weight that they say, hey, I've always shot 70 pounds and that's where my confidence is. I don't want to decrease my draw weight, even though I feel like I should. So there can be a confidence factor. And then sometimes there is just an outright ego factor where, hey, in my opinion, all of us men, myself included, find our self-esteem in different things. Some of it's our family, some of it's our faith in God, some of it's our job, some of it's for some of us it's the amount of draw weight we pull, and some guys just find a boost and some pride in that. And it doesn't always cause a problem, but sometimes it does, and that's where too much draw weight can cause some problems.
So, Christian, we have here in West Point, we have a doctor here, Dr. Ned Miller. He's a brilliant guy, and he's a big bow hunter. And I was texting with him that we were having you on, and he had a couple of questions that he wanted me to ask. So here we go. All right.
Yeah,
so
he's fixing to go climb a mountain,
yeah,
chasing elk with a bow.
Yeah, one of his questions is about that. But his first one is, what are the best exercises for the bow arm and shoulder that will dampen pin wobble?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I'm thinking about how to best answer this. There are a variety of different exercises we use. So I'm going to first approach this from a slightly different angle, and that is the exercises that are going to be the best are going to be exercises that require you to hold weight or resistance out to the side. And that weight or resistance can occur in different positions or from different angles. So holding weight, spending time under tension, trying to hold as still as possible is going to be number one. Number two is going to be doing reps very, very slowly. So a very simple example, even if you're just raising dumbbells or weights from your side up to shoulder height, out to the side, and then back down, what we would call lateral raise. If you can slow those down and it takes you 10 seconds to go all the way up, 10 seconds to go all the way down, what you're doing is you're training your nervous system and your muscular system to very finely contract and produce force, which is what allows us to hold steady. It's kind of like if you're very good at keeping the gas pedal at a specific speed, almost like cruise control. It's the same idea there. And then the last one is I like to do some different exercises where we force the shoulder joint to stabilize. So we might be doing dumbbell circles with dumbbells. We might be doing waving motions with a band. Very difficult to explain without demonstrating. But to go back through those, it's holding weight or resistance as still as possible, training your muscular system and your nervous system to lock down that movement and minimize that pin float. It's not about eliminating it. No one will ever eliminate pin float, but we can shrink pin float from the size of a pie plate to the size of a softball, for example. So number one is holding weight or resistance as steady as possible. Number two is performing different shoulder exercises with resistance as slow as you can possibly go, or just in a slower manner than normal, to control that amount of force you're generating, which helps us stabilize the bow. And then number three is some stabilization exercises where your body's essentially fighting against that erratic movement that we see in the pin moving around. And the better we can get at fighting that and controlling that excessive movement, the more we can lock it down and shrink it.
That's a really good response. Really, really good. I think everybody can understand that.
It's crystal clear that Christian is a serious bow hunter. No question about that.
Yeah. Have you had any experience with using the ice baths for rehabbing injuries and helping with pain? Because you brought up Dr. Ned, he may have some more questions for us, but he has indicated to me that it's almost miraculous how much it helps pain. And of course, it's one thing to get your whole body in but I mean, tendonitis or arm injury or shoulder injury. I'm just wondering if you've had experience with people using the ice bath.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I do not utilize ice baths a whole lot for my clients. There just tends to be number one, there tends to be some other priorities, but it's also pretty hard to get somebody to take an ice bath when they're paying me to help them and they say, you wanted me to do what? You want me to take an ice bath? But you're right. There's a pretty conclusive benefit that we get from using ice. It really desensitizes pain pretty well, at least for the short term. There's some mixed research on, how well it, how helpful it is for the long term. But yeah, there's definitely something worth considering with that.
Lanny, have you ever done that ice stuff? You look like somebody.
I've done, I think, everything he's talked about.
Yeah.
And definitely ice has been beneficial for me in injuries, I would say. And what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, ice packs I've used all. I've never done the ice bath, but I have used all kind of just to reduce swelling. You know, that's a different deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we'll use ice packs as well. Yeah, but an ice bath is that's level 10.
It is.
An ice
Yes.
pack, that's for sure.
So look, let me ask Ned's other question. He's so good to us around here. I got to make sure we take care of him. But he said, please allow me to go off topic just a little bit. And he said, one of my biggest concerns, and I'm about to go on a backcountry elk hunt, is ankle instability. Are there exercises that are best for ankle stability to help prevent injury?
Especially in the mountains.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the answer that I would give, there's a variety of exercises under the sun, but if someone is concerned about ankle instability, ankle problems on a backcountry hunt, the best thing, in my opinion, that you can do is go hike, go ruck, go carry a pack around here. Weekly I hike gas well roads on the public lands around here. You want to start conservatively, start at a manageable level. You know, don't go for 10 miles with 50 pounds on your back, but start at a level that's comfortable for you. Maybe it's a mile with no weight. Then the next week it's a mile and a half with no weight. Then the next week it's a mile and a half with 20 pounds and so on and so forth, because you can gradually build yourself up to handle the exact task that you're going to be doing. Right? If the task is that I'm going to be carrying weight, or maybe I'm not even carrying weight, but I'm on uneven terrain and I'm walking up and down and the footing is odd, start to gradually expose yourself to that. You should be doing that way earlier on in the hunt, at least, in my opinion, at least 3 or 4 months before time, if you can keep it up almost year round. Hit this target head on, directly on, hit the nail on the head with prepping yourself to do that exact task you're going to do, with the ultimate goal of the analogy I used earlier, filling that gas tank more than you need. So if you can get yourself to the point where you're carrying, a good amount of weight and you're hiking miles at a time, a couple days a week, and then you go out west and you can say or put yourself in a position where it's like, hey, I've done this before. I can do this. I'm prepared for it, and I'm equipped for it, specifically to that ankle-related issue and problem. But the key is gradually building yourself up and then doing it frequently and often enough, which is probably going to be at least twice, if not 3 times a week.
That's great. That's really good advice. Laney, you got a comment or question?
Yeah, bow hunting, specifically for us, definitely in the early years was a lot of lock-ons, and I noticed, shooting from the ground,
screw-in steps, climbing trees
is a lot different than shooting from an elevated position. I don't have any advice that you could give, on feet positioning or foot positioning, and really paying attention so you're able to draw from a smaller elevated position.
Sure. So do you mind if I clarify, are you asking in regards to shooting from elevated or from shooting from the ground?
Elevated. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think people's practice shooting is on the ground. And then once you get in that tree, it's a little bit different ball game, 100%.
Yeah.
So just wonder if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing on the subject of getting comfortable from practicing from an elevated stand is creating an opportunity for yourself to consistently practice from an elevated stand with as minimal barrier to entry and as minimal obstacles as possible. And what I mean by that is, there's a couple of details, of course, with shooting from an elevated stand, but at the end of the day, you have to practice it. And most people know that, but most people don't create an opportunity for themselves to do that regularly, even a couple of times a week, because it can be a bother if you've got to drive to, let's say one of your hunting spots preseason, get up in the stand and shoot, or maybe you've got to a tree in your side yard and you have to hang sticks and then hang a lock on, then practice, my recommendation is get yourself a cheap yet safe ladder stand. Get a safety line tied up there. Get an old safety harness that's still safe, that's laying around. Put that harness on. You can go out. You can climb up that tree, shoot a half a dozen arrows, a dozen arrows, whatever it might be, climb down, and you're done in 10, 15 minutes. As I sit here on my porch, I'm looking at a big hemlock tree in my backyard that has just that. It's a ladder stand, 15 feet up. There's a safe line on it. There's an arrow tube on it. I climb up the stand. Put my arrows in the tube. I've got a target already set up. Shoot, practice, feel out those positions, feel out your anchor point, feel out that shift of the hips and the tilting of the T position that you need to have from that elevated stand. Practice it, hammer it a couple of times a week. And again, the key there is removing the obstacles, because most of us are busy. We've got family, jobs, and climbing a tree and setting everything up to shoot from an elevated position can be a pain in the butt. And when things are a pain in the butt, we just tend not to do them enough. So by making it easy, creating a simple opportunity to do that regularly, I think that is the thing that is the most important piece to get here and really try to apply.
Yeah, there's been some good information here.
Yeah, good stuff.
And if y'all go to, he's got an Instagram page at archery.strong. I mean, he just every few days there's a post going through a lot of these different things you could learn from.
I would have to say it's a sort of an unlikely topic for us, but very inspirational for me, especially this time of year.
Yeah.
It's not
getting ready.
Not too late to step it up a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah, all we talk about is food plots and getting ready, but we need to think about, getting ourselves ready too.
Need to be doing some push-ups.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to do something today. Let's do something when we get done. You want to plank after we get done?
Lenny, why don't you plank while we do the
There you
trivia
go.
question?
Okay, I can plank.
Don't challenge him.
Yeah.
Cuz, you got anything else you want to ask him?
No, it all makes sense. I go down those rabbit holes all the time. Me personally, I've been real lucky with that upper body stuff because my head weighs like 50 pounds, so it works my shoulders out all the time. So I just work on those arms. Yeah, I love anything like he talks about. Do it yourself. It's natural. Get prepared and all that. And sometimes you just got to keep hammering people till they do the right thing. But that was fascinating stuff from somebody that actually knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. So Christian, we enjoyed having you. At this point, before we let you go, we always ask our guests a trivia question. You've got a chance to win a prize. Actually, we're going to go ahead and send you a companion shirt. You'll enjoy getting that in a few days. But one of our listeners, I'm going to turn this over to Richie, our producer. Richie, what have we got today?
So our prize today is a Tom Beckby Bottomland jacket.
Oh, yeah. That's the big prize.
Good one there.
Yeah.
No,
that is a great prize.
We're not eligible.
That thing is expensive,
Oh,
too.
yeah, that's a great prize.
People are so we opened this up about 3 weeks ago when Kenny was here.
Yeah.
To leave a review, and we might pick one of these reviews to
win the Tom Beckby jacket.
So we picked one. So Richie, who won this?
Yeah, so this lucky winner, aka Down South Davenport.
Wait,
Richie,
no.
Richie.
Family and friends cannot win.
Yeah, Richie, you cannot win this.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, Richie, whose name did we pull?
Chase
All
Hunt.
right, let's see here. We get Chase Hunt.
Hey.
No, we didn't pull Chase Hunt.
No, that would be J. Martin, 1997 is the winner.
J. Martin, 1997, has got a very nice jacket.
He did. It's fantastic. Wow. Y'all need to go to tombeckby.com and check this out. Just Google it. Yeah. And it's I think it's called a Tinsel jacket, and it's in Bottomland. It is gorgeous.
Great stuff.
So thanks to Tom Beckby. The winner, just get in touch with us. We're probably going to have a bunch of people say their name is.
I'm an extra large in case he wants to donate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great prize.
All right. True or false here, Christian?
Now, Christian, think about this. Now, don't just blurt out an answer.
Is there an ailment called Gamekeeper's thumb?
Ooh.
Gamekeeper's thumb.
Yes.
Yep. Is there an ailment named Gamekeeper's thumb?
You being a physical therapist, movement kind of guy, I was expecting this would be right in your wheelhouse.
You're 50-50 anyways.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty good odds. Gamekeeper's thumb. I'm going to say, well, I'm thinking about bass fishing, so I'm gonna say true. That's what
All
came to mind.
right.
It is, yeah.
It's
It's a European
Yep.
issue, and it has to do with cleaning rabbits.
Cleaning them.
But if you go to Google and type in Gamekeepers
Oh,
Thumb, there's a
interesting.
lot of stuff on
I'm gonna
there.
say I'm gonna go.
You clean
I'm
a
gonna
lot
go-
of rabbits.
I'm gonna go with the catching bass over here.
Yeah. It's also in America. It's called skier's thumb.
Are they cleaning rabbits while they're skiing?
I don't know, but
It
that's
must be
what
the same motion.
it's
holding
called.
on
Either
those poles. or
Gamekeeper's
something
thumb
like
or
that.
skier. Have you heard of skier's thumb, Kirsten?
I have not.
Christian,
I've
Christian,
not.
where did you go to school? Where did you get trained? We're a little worried about you there. So, look, all right. So, we're going to send you a companion shirt, Christian. This has been really interesting.
Yeah,
I would
good stuff.
really, Lanny, you
Thank
need
you.
to follow at.
Yes.
Bobby, are you going to have a class with us early in the morning before work? And
I will.
Probably won't
lead
do
the
that.
workout. Come on, man.
But this is real important because you
He
think about
just said
climbing up a tree at our age,
Yes.
and then you're stiff and early,
Look,
and all of a
I
sudden
worry
you
about
got to
it all
draw
the
a bow
time.
back.
And it could, early in the morning, So
Could be early.
Could
in
be
the
in the
morning.
morning.
Yeah. All right, Christian. Guys, can y'all think of anything else we need to ask you? Christian, you got anything you want to say
Ready to go
hello to
the bow
anybody?
range.
I don't think I need to say hello, but I want to thank each of you guys for your time and for the conversation. I always enjoy connecting and just having some good old fashioned chat about different things that are either interesting or we're passionate about. So this was a great way to end my Wednesday, and I appreciate the opportunity. And anybody else out there who's listening, thank you for your time, because you could have listened to anything today and you chose to listen to us ramble on, make jokes, and share hopefully a couple of valuable pieces of information that you can apply and make your life better. So thank you.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That was good
That was
words.
good.
And
There
Christian,
you go.
are you there? Are we looking at at Pennsylvania? Is that the backdrop there?
Yes, sir. This is central Pennsylvania, about an hour west from Penn State University.
Deep
The
in
Nittany
state.
Lions.
Look at Lanny.
Look at me.
Happy Valley.
How did you know
I don't
that?
know how I knew that, honestly. I think we used to go up there and work that Harrisburg, Pennsylvania show so much.
Yeah,
What's the capacity of that stadium? 110,000.
It's a big one.
It's a big one. Our buddy Luke Combs filled
I
it to
do
the brim the
not
other
know.
day in a concert. 100 and something thousand.
Wow. All right.
right.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. Christian, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christian.
Richie, you look like you're ready to get out the door.
He's ready to do some
Cuz,
planks. You ready to plank it out?
I'm game if Bobby's game.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll
have
do
a
that.
plank off.
Cuz, we appreciate you being here. Dudley is just missing in action. We're not sure
I
where
think
Dudley
he's
is.
following fish somewhere or something. So
Not
they'll give-
fishing, but fish.
Yeah, PHISH.
I don't even know what that is. I don't even want to know what that is.
Bobby, you need to go to a show.
Yeah,
No,
we
I
need to
do
check-
not
I
need to
think
go
you-
to
yeah,
a
you
show.
do. Yeah, you do need to go to the show.
All right, guys.
Show, man.
I don't know where Dudley is, but you know me. I'm a good pinch hitter and a team player.
Come on in. You look good right there.
Hey, look, I don't care to be sitting here.
Yeah.
I sat in my normal spot.
Yeah.
And y'all move me around here.
Yeah.
But hey, anytime I can help.
Feels right at home.
It's a podcast kind of world right
It
now.
It
is.
sure is. Yeah.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
10-4.
That's right. All
Let's
right.
go work out.
Say goodbye, cuz.
Goodbye, cuz.
Get us out of here, Richie.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.